So, you like to read scary stories. I've looked over some of these fantastical tales you read. I could tell you from experience that they don't come close to the horrors of real life. May I tell you a story? Would you care to listen to an old woman's tale? I once had a younger sister named Mary. As far as I could tell, she came to be as a complete surprise to my parents. I, who had been their only child up to that point, had already married and left home by the time she was born. Her birth was not marked by the joy that comes with the most miracles of kind. Delivering our Mary into this world ended up being the very last thing my poor mother would ever do. Yes, such tragedies still occurred in the 20th century. They were rare, the doctors told us, but they did happen. And that unlikelihood made the reality of it all more devastating. My father, the skilled undertaker, insists on preparing my mother himself. So great that his love for her that would simply couldn't bear through the thought of anyone else laying their hands on her. I remember looking at him, and then at my husband, hoping to be cared for with the fraction of the same tenderness should I pass before him. I don't believe my father would ever forgive my sister for her role in death of his beloved wife. Many times I had heard him speak to her with harshness in his voice, issuing a strict reprimands for the smallest offenses. I would allow her to stay with me at my home whenever possible. I hoped to provide her with small moments of respite from, and that seemed to be my father's constant punishment. Never do one of the contract with his authority. I kept my opinions to myself most of the time, until finally I decided that I could stay quiet no longer. "Father," I said, "you cannot continue to treat Mary like this." "Like what?" he challenged. "Like a criminal," I spat, louder than I intended. "Like what happened to mother was not her fault." "Shut your mouth, Elizabeth," my father insisted. The fury in his eyes silenced me. I was never seen in such expression on his face before. To be honest, it frightened me. I felt certain at this moment that if I were to press the issue any further, he would subject me to some kind of horrible punishment. It was the first and last time I would ever confront him about his treatment of Mary. It had always been father's expectation that Mary would go into convenient and late a cloistered life, perhaps the final and permanent act of astonishment for what he had saw in her crime. The way Mary developed, however, could not have been further from his desires. As she blossomed into her teenage years, her passion and wildness grew, for all the work my father and I had done to instill her true values and virtues of the Catholic faith ablit in very different ways. Mary seemed to resist such teachings. She would go through emotions of each sacrament, doing just enough of what is expected of her. But as soon as her eyes were turned, she'll be running around town with a pack of lustful boys hot on her heels. Disaster, it seemed. It was inevitable. Once when Mary was about 17 years old, I heard a frantic pounding on my door at around midnight. I answered it groggily, but sharpened almost immediately when I saw it was Mary, soaked with rain and looking utterly terrified. "Mary, dear," I said, ushering her inside. "What on earth is the matter?" "I need to talk to you," she said. I'm in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked. She peered at me with big, beautiful eyes and put a hand delicately on her stomach. I caught her meeting instantly. "Mary!" I exclaimed in hindsight. I should have not been so shocked. I think I wanted to believe that she was better than this. It's clear to me now that this was nothing more than willful blindness to denial. "I don't know what to do, Lizzie," she said with quivering voice, as she attempted to hold back tears. "Well, are you absolutely sure?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "There's no doubt whatsoever." "Mary," I repeated, with no particular point to be made. "You're ashamed of me," she guessed. "I'm disappointed, honestly," I said, "but it's not my place to judge." "Thank you," she said, almost sarcastically. "I don't know what to do," she repeated. "There is the one thing you can do," I said. "You have to tell father. You're living under his roof. He needs to know." Mary began to weep. I can't tell him, she sobbed. He'll be furious. I put my arms around her. I know, Mary, I know, but we must all face the consequences of our actions. Some situations do not present us with an easy way out. I took her gently by the chin and brought her gaze up to meet my own. You're a mother now, I said. You have to be brave, like your namesake. The blessed mother, she said with a slight nod, showing me that she understood. That's right, I offered her a smile. An hour of a cup of tea later, Mary left, disappearing back into the stormy night. It would be the last time we ever spoke. The story as my father told it, as he was down in his room cleaning, when Mary burst to tell him the news. A frightful argument was ensued, and to his apparent shame, he struck her. This, he says, caused her to run off. She never said where she was going, and we never saw her again. This doesn't seem to bother him in the slightest, confirming my suspicions that he hated her. Disgusted I was every part of this entire situation. I knew that everyone made their own decisions, and it was only God to judge. I made some effort to look for Mary, but in vain. Finally, I was left alone to my prayers that she would return safely, without having done anything rash or destructive. Things returned to their relative normalcy, until one day when my father made a gift to our local church. It was a life-size statue of the Madonna, which they had proudly displayed outside of the entrance for the whole town to see. Passersby would remark on how lifelike the image had seemed. I didn't know the undertaker was also a sculptor, they said. He must have loved his daughter very much to craft the blessed mother in her image, they said. I was horrified. I knew what had happened. Deep down in my heart, I knew what the townspeople were praising. I knew, but I didn't say anything. Who would have believed me? What if I had not been wrong? I prayed to God to be wrong, but to this day, I suspect it was not. My father had always desired that Mary should live by the church. That is, it seemed, was close enough.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.